Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Thaddeus McNeil, and I teach people how to tell their stories so they can change lives. So, the thing is, I have come across so many of you all who express to me that you have great stories that you want to tell. But for the most part, you're challenged because, for whatever reason, something is stopping you from telling your story. Whether it's fear, whether it's imposter syndrome, whether it's something else, but you're having a hard time getting over that hump to be able to articulate or have the courage to tell your story. And today we're going to talk about what it takes to have courage to be able to tell your story. So I just want to walk with you. I want to inspire you. I want to give you the tips, the tools, the tricks, and everything that you need to be able to tell your story in such a manner that people will understand you, people know, like, and trust you. When we're done here, you should be able to have everything you need to be able to tell your story, how to tell your story, and know what tips and things you could use to make a better story. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name's Thaddeus McNeil, and I teach people how to tell their stories so they can change lives. And today, I want to help people to overcome whatever obstacles they have that's stopping them from being able to share their story. The reason that's important is because what you don't realize is there are people out there who are waiting on your story because they're waiting on your story because they're waiting on the things that you have to share. They may not ever get out of the situation they're in. You don't realize is that there's people who are stuck, who need to take a next step, who may not have the courage or the strength to go from where they are to where they want to be. And your story is going to be what gives them that strength. It's going to be the catalyst to get them from where they are to their dream desire. And so I want to walk you guys through the steps that are necessary for you all to build the courage to be able to tell your story. So I hope this helps somebody as much as it helps me. I'm going to share with you some of my journey as well. And hopefully it sheds some light on what's necessary to be able to share your story to help people out. All right. So let's dive into it. So, again, like I said, this is the courage to be able to tell your story. We're going to talk about overcoming fear, self doubt, as well as your limiting beliefs so we can move forward when it comes to telling these stories. All right. So, the first thing I need you guys to understand is that 65% of people understand that communication is story based. That means as you give any types of facts, people's minds are designed to automatically turn these into stories anyway. But if you can tell a compelling story on the front end, people are more likely to remember whatever information you have to give because stories also incorporate feelings, and those feelings are portions of memory. And so a person doesn't just remember the facts, but they feel the thing as well, which is giving you a likely outcome that the story or the lesson or whatever part that resonated with the person is going to be remembered. So when a person is telling a story, um, they are going to have 22% more impact because it's going to be more memorable than facts alone. And also need you to understand that 92% of consumers usually consume things based on their story. Think about the brands that you really like. Some people it's Chick-fil-A. Some people it may be Zapatos or something like that. But there's a story surrounding that brand that's attractive to you. More oftentimes than not, you're rocking with that company because of that brand story. And so oftentimes the story being the hook brings people in and causes people to really come after you, know, like, and trust you. So with that said, here's just a saying I have. Your story is not behind you, it's the foundation of everything that gets built on. So whether you're a content creator, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a leader, whether you're somebody creating a nonprofit or organization, the story surrounding it, it's the foundation for everything. It's why people will follow you, it's why people will gravitate towards you. And we're going to get into exactly how that works. All right, so the next thing I need you to understand is you're not alone. This is somewhat of a silent epidemic. So most people take their best stories to the grave, and that's because they never developed the courage to be able to say what was going on with them or share it for whatever reason. But the main reasons people don't share their stories are for a few things. First, that's fear of judgment. All of us have been through that. Imposter syndrome. We're going to get into that. The story that you or the thing that you have to share isn't special or unique. You'd be surprised. And then also that emotional vulnerability that we struggle with sometimes, especially us guys. So with that said, I need you to understand that 70% of people like feel like they don't have a story that's worth telling. So you're not alone, okay? 70% of people do this. So another portion of people that I really talk about a lot is veterans, because I'm a veteran, 25 years in the military. Now, 3 out of 4 veterans never get a chance to discuss any of the things that they've experienced because they feel like nobody else around them will listen to them or nobody else would get them. So, veterans, I want to encourage you as well to be able to share your story. Now, with that said, 85% of professionals fear public speaking or public storytelling. For you leaders, for you business owners, for you people who are out front with any organization, this is important. You have to be able to tell your story. And when you can be able to tell your story, you're going to lock in emotions that people gravitate toward the thing that you're doing or its purpose. So, another thing, we're going to talk about the 3 walls between you and your story. All right. That's fear, self doubt, and limiting beliefs. Now, guys, I have struggled with all of these at some period, but I'm going to talk about also how I was able to overcome them. And hopefully, you can use the same tools and use some of the same things to get over them as well. So, first, fear. Man, all of us have experienced this at some point, and it's the voice that says, not yet, meaning that you are likely feeling judgment when you feel like you want to share your story or you want to get up and talk in front of anybody, whether it's on camera, whether it's on stage, whether it's just sharing anything about something that you've experienced. And these feelings are are not wrong. It doesn't make you a bad person. For example, fear is the number one reason that people's story goes untold. All right. You keep thinking that people see the worst parts of you when you stand up. It's just a natural thing that people have to get over. We're going to talk about how to get around that. I need you to understand that 77% of people fear sharing stories because of their anxiety. It's a thing. It's a thing. You're not alone. Next is self-doubt. It's the voice that says, not you. This is where imposter syndrome comes in and affects 70% of people, especially professionals. They don't feel like they're qualified. They have the experience. They have all the credentials. They have everything they need, but for whatever reason, they stay stuck in that feeling that it's not enough. And we're going to talk about how you overcome that as well. Do you know 70% of professionals experience imposter syndrome? So I need you to understand it's not just you. All right. And that's the other thing that these voices tell you. It's just you. And that's not true. And also the third one, which is limiting beliefs. Those limiting beliefs keep us stuck. These are the voices that say you're not enough, that your story isn't interesting, that nobody cares, that nobody wants to hear it, that it's not good enough, that you're not a speaker, you're not qualified, all these different things. But it's not true. Again, 95% of people's self-limiting beliefs come to them before the age of 35. And when they get there at 35, more oftentimes than not, people have not had a chance to address them or have not addressed them. And they just keep piling on. And we don't want that to happen to you. So let's talk about ways to get around this. So that first wall is the fear of being seen. All right. Fear that that your story isn't good enough. All right. Fear is not the enemy of your story. It's proof that your story has power. Okay. We're going to talk about how that works. There's a couple things you need to understand: that the amygdala, or that portion of the brain that can tell the difference between physical and social risk, it can't in moments where you have that level of fear. Okay. So being judged feels like being attacked, and you're not being judged. We're going to talk about how you need to reframe this. Also, being vulnerable. This is very tough. There's research that says people who share their stories or do not share their story, we'll say people who share their stories, experience 3 times greater life satisfaction. So imagine being able to share your stories. Here's another thing that you need to understand: is that every time you share a story, it's not just a benefit for the listener, but it's also a benefit for the storyteller, because you get to unburden yourself with the story. More oftentimes than not, there's heaviness, there's weight associated with your story. And every time you get a chance to share it, you unburden yourself from that weight. And that story needs to be told because it's pent up inside you and it needs to go somewhere. That energy needs to flow out of you. It needs to be broadcasted. And so here's an opportunity to do that with your story. Then I need you to understand that a lot of people deal with stage fright. It's that social vulnerability to put your information online, to make content, to make posts, to stand in front of people and talk, to even do this inside of a meeting. I've been inside of meetings with professionals for years who had no idea or had no strength to be able to tell their particular story. They could stand up and talk in front of PowerPoints all day, but when it came to talking about things that were personal for them, it was a true struggle. Now, the antidote for fear is not courage, it's clarity about what your story is for, your why, the reasoning behind it. More oftentimes than not, I need you to understand it's not about you. It's about the person that your story is going to free. And more oftentimes than not, what you don't realize is the person that that story is going to free is yourself. Now, here's a couple ways to reframe this. All right. So, what if they judge me? It's a thought that comes across, and I know that's a voice that's there, but what if it frees somebody? See it differently like that. All right. Your story could change somebody else's life. This is going to help you have courage to share your story. Next, what if I cry? What if I get emotional? What if it's too much for me? What if that's the point? To be able to show your vulnerability, to be able to show that you have humanity beyond being a robot or being what people see on the surface. I need you to understand that more oftentimes than not, when you're able to show that level of vulnerability, that level of emotion, people connect with you. And once they connect with you, what happens is they now begin to trust you. You build a level of trust with those people. All right. And you're able to influence, have significance and impact in their lives once you're able to build that level of trust. Next, I know sometimes that voice comes that says, what if we're not ready? I've been through it and you are qualified. I'm qualified. You're qualified. All right. What if you're not ready? That is probably the most prominent voice for me. Now, here's what I need you to understand. You've already got all the training, the schooling, the experience. Your experience is what qualifies you by itself. Okay. So don't be afraid because you've reframed everything. What if this helps somebody? What if it's the point that you're emotional and you've already been through it? You are qualified to talk about whatever you're talking about. All right. So let's hurry up and get through this. Not that we're in a rush, but here's the second wall. All right. Self-doubt, being an imposter. Listen, so many people wrestle with this. 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. Look at the list of people who've experienced this. Albert Einstein, Maya Angelou, Tom Hanks, Michelle Obama, Neil Armstrong, all people you've heard of who have been in limelights, who are highly intelligent people, who are highly creative people. And at some point, they've experienced imposter syndrome. So don't think you're the only one. Here's a couple things you need to know about imposter syndrome, especially when it comes to telling your story or the story that you tell yourself. My experience isn't unique. Yeah, yes, it is. There's nobody else with your specific combination that can ever be able to put together a story the way you will be able to, because nobody will ever be able to see it because you're living your unique life. The next myth is that I can't achieve enough to speak on this. Mm, you need to be one step ahead of the person you're helping. And if you've already came through this, then yes, you are. Another myth is that people will think I'm bragging. Been there, but sharing your struggle is the opposite of bragging. It's actually showing a level of humility, and you're building a bridge from where you were to where you are. And you're going to help people do that same thing. Another myth: someone has already told a story like mine. Yeah, that's true, maybe, but they're not you. And nobody can tell your story in your voice with the lessons that you've learned. Your uniqueness is what's key here for the power of your story. Do not believe you're an imposter. Believe that you are you and you are enough. Let's move forward. So, we're going to talk about that third wall, that third obstacle to get over, which is limiting beliefs. A belief is just a thought you keep repeating. And we're going to talk about how science works with this, okay? The neuroscience of belief can change. Okay. So, where they form in your brain, 95% of your beliefs or your limited beliefs form, like we talked about earlier, before the age of 35. What happens is you get these messages from your family, from the things that you've experienced, from your schools, from all these things you get from society that have built these thoughts and mindsets in you. All right. I need you to also understand that they can stick, especially when you continue to repeat them. Neurological pathways reinforce these thoughts over and over when you keep saying it, when you don't even realize it, but they're on autopilot in your subconscious. And these thoughts are holding you back from most of the things that you want to do because it's an automatic thought. It's something that your brain does to protect you, where your brain will go on autopilot and continue the easy things that you program it to do. And sometimes these are your thoughts. And now, here's what I need you to understand, that because your brain does this, you can change this. All right. You might be telling yourself you're not a storyteller, you're not good at speaking and all that. All these things can change. You are the architect of your brain. So if you start using different thoughts, different words, different things you continue to repeat, you will now get a different neural pathway. And now you'll start to build the courage physiologically. I'm saying that wrong. We'll get past it. I don't know why I'm struggling to say that right now, but I just said it 100 times a couple days ago. So, but right now, I need you to understand that you can change physically the mental pathways that are in your mind because you can share a different thought. You can home a different thought. Now, this is how you break them. Neuroplasticity provides your brains a way to rewire at any age. All right. There's evidence that says you have lived a particular story. Now, this interrupts, it's called a conscious interrupt. This interrupts the thoughts that you've already been thinking. And so now you start talking about the things that you've lived that are counter to the thoughts that you're having. The more often that you can do that, you'll rewire your brain. This is how you begin to tell your story on a practical level. All right. Think about the things that you've experienced and the story that you want to tell. It overcomes the thoughts that you've already had. This will allow you the courage, physiological. I'm going to try it again. Lord have mercy. The word does not want to come out. And this will allow you to overcome those thoughts and be able to share your story. All right. The signature story framework. This is something that I have as part of my mission, which is called Mission to Message. So I teach people how to tell their stories, and I teach them how to do this inside of something called a signature story. All right. And we're going to talk about how we get to that signature story, but we're going to talk about these 3 steps to finding, framing, and sharing a story that changes everything for you. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is to find your story. I need you to execute or think about, I said execute, but I mean excavate your story. Okay. I need you to think about 3 moments, just 3 moments that were defining for you. For me, it was joining the United States Marine Corps and then later becoming an army officer. Another one was going to combat. Another one was having my son. Another one was getting married. So there's so many moments within your life that are defining moments. Figure out some of these defining moments and you can build from there. You want to look at different things that caused you pain, different things that pushed you, decision points, and transformation points in your life. All right. So I want you to think about what happened and what you wished happened, what you would have done differently. Now, for me, like I said, I'm a military veteran, and especially you guys who are in the military, you're transitioning to a different lifestyle. Like these are big changes. And I want you to think about how these changes are affecting you. This is the first thing, to find your story. The next thing is it's how you frame it. This is part 2. Okay. You're going to build that story very smoothly. The way you're going to do that is you're going to think about first your origin story, where you came from, how you got started. All right. Then you're going to move to your mirror story. This is a story that talks about what your struggles were and how you overcame those struggles. Then you're going to move into what's called your stand story. Your stand story is your core beliefs and values based on the lessons that you learned from the things that you went through before. All right. How did things change? What do you do differently now? How do you see life? Every story needs some type of tension, a turning point, as well as a takeaway or a lesson. Once you're able to do that, you've put yourself in a position to be able to tell your story in a succinct way. The next thing is you want to share that story. Now, you want to deploy your story in a very intentional way. All right. There's several ways you can do this. Just choose a platform and adopt it. For me, I do this as a keynote speaker, a trainer, workshop trainer, content creator, a coach, and sometimes just creating content like this just to help people. All right. I talk to friends and family and tell stories like this all the time. And if I can do this, surely you can do this. This is not something I was formally trained to do. Okay. So you can do this as well. Now, just pick something that's comfortable. We're going to talk about different comfortable ways to be able to share that story. But the goal isn't to impress people. You don't have to be a rock star doing this. All right. Your goal is to serve people and to connect with people. That's all your story is for in the beginning. Okay. To serve people and to connect with people. Now, you want to share this um, when you're fully ready and you want to get some reps in, and we're going to talk about how you get those reps in to be able to tell your story so you can practice it and be able on a drop of a dime or practice on a particular presentation where you can give your story and it come out smooth and succinct. All right. So here's a couple things you need to understand about the science of telling your story. All right. When you're telling a story, there's something called neurocoupling that happens. Neurocoupling is when a speaker is given a story and the listener mind connects with that speaker in such a way it moves in sync. The brain patterns link up. Did you know that? I didn't till I got into this. So neuroscience is telling us that the emotional bonds that are building while your brain waves are linked up are far stronger than it would be when you're just given facts. That's why storytelling is powerful. You also release oxytocin. Hearing a character driven story triggers oxytocin. You ever been to a movie and the great character that you've been following, something's happened? You get oxytocin release when you're watching these movies. You're seeing a story and the story is unfolding before you. All right. This makes people want to take action. Think about it. So if you're a salesman, if you're a leader, if you're a business owner, any of these things, and you're able to tell your story, imagine being able to tell your story in such a manner where people can take action based on the things that you just said. This is why this is important. This is why this is important. Next, the dopamine effect. So emotionally, this charges and triggers dopamine in people, which improves their focus and retention by 7% or times 7% or times seven. I said 7%. It's times seven. So imagine it. Instead of just standing up talking facts, giving bullet points, if you do it within a story, people are 7 times more likely to remember and stay focused and locked in on what you have to say. That's why storytelling is so important. Next, I need you to think about the social identity of this. Stories create your shared identity. This is how you build groups and build communities, especially if you want people to know, like, and trust you and follow you. It reports 40% stronger cohesion and trust when you're able to share your story. Sharing your story is so important. I can't emphasize that enough. You have to be able to share your story in order to be able to build these types of things. Now, like I said, I really love to talk to veterans. And the military gave you a story. Now it's time for you to share it. You've been to combat, you've been to training, you've been to deployments, you've met some weird people, you served with some great people, you served with some great leaders, and you served with some terrible leaders. You worked with the quirkiest, most different people you can imagine. You have so many stories to tell. I know you do. Share your story. People need to hear it. I need you to know a few things. There's 18 million US veterans who have a story of transformation. There's 18 million veterans in the US. 75% of these veterans have difficulty going from the civilian life to the military experience or talking about that military experience because you don't feel like people get them. But your stories will bridge the gap. All right. You're moving into a new way of life, but your stories will build will bridge the gap there. You're 3 times more likely to be hired as a veteran if you can if you can tell a compelling story within your interview. It makes a difference. Imagine being able to tell a story about the times you were able to lead when things were tough. Imagine being able to tell your story about the time you were resilient in the face of something very difficult. It works. I need you to understand that there's 200,000 veterans who transition out of the military every single year. And all of them need new narratives, and you can help them with those new narratives. Or if you're a veteran, help other veterans who are transitioning by sharing your story. Okay. All right. So here's the story vault. These are 5 types of stories that are worth telling and that you can tell right now. Okay. So the first story I need you to understand, like we talked about slightly, the origin story, where you come from. This is your background, your family. This is the life that you come from, that you built. The next story is your failure story. It's the story of something that didn't go right, when something broke for you, the moment everything fell apart, the defining low, all those different things from your lens. All right. Because we've all been there too. The next thing I need you to understand is there's a turning point. There's a story where you made a decision that changed everything for you. For me, it was me walking away from a 6-figure job to be able to do this as a full-time speaker and trainer and coach. So, hey, that wasn't easy, but I learned a lot, and it changed my life and the life of my family. So being able to do this or being able to tell that story really helped somebody else, because I was able to do this because I heard stories of other people who were able to do it. It's the moment that changes everything. You got to get really honest in that moment and even ask for help, or this is where you took risk, or this is where your pain led to some type of purpose. All right. You want to talk about a mentor story. Was there somebody in your life who challenged you? Was there somebody in your life who shaped you? Was there a person who pushed you beyond what you thought your limits were, who built up your humility and honor? Was there a teacher that taught you a lesson, or somebody like that? These stories matter as well. You have to share this type of story. Now, for me, one of my favorites is the mission story. This is what you stand for, your why, the reason you do what you do, the thing that drives you, that compels you, that encourages you, that inspires you to move forward or do what you do on a daily basis. Why do you go after the mission that you go after? This is another form of story that you have to be able to share. All right, guys. So now I'm going to give you the tools you need to build your story. These are small, simple things that you can do that can help you build the courage to be able to tell your story. Courage is not a feeling you're waiting for. It's a practice that you build, okay? Now let's talk about some of these things. The first thing is I write before I speak. So there's times I have to give a keynote keynote speech. Lord have mercy, whatever. So keynote speech, and I have to write everything out, and I have to practice it, and everything comes out so much clearer. At least this is how my mentors taught me to do it. Everything comes out so much clearer when you have it written out before you have to say it. Because if you have to come off the top of the head, sometimes if it's uh, just a spontaneous thing you have to talk about, if it's impromptu, if you're an extemporaneous speaker, a lot of times you still need things written out so it can be clear before you. So I want you to take 10 minutes daily to write out some of the things that you want to say, or to write out or journal your story. All right. Dig out some of those parts we talked about, the things that started your story, where you came from, all those things. Take 10 minutes a day and write these things out. This is going to help you be able to tell your story. The next thing is tell one safe person. I love teaching people to do this. This is easy. Just sometime this week, find somebody that you can trust and share your story with them. Okay. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to do anything else, but just practice sharing your story with them. All right. This is going to reduce a lot of your fear, and it's going to remove some of the anxiety as well. Next, you want to record yourself. This is how I got started. So I just started turning on my phone camera and recording myself. That's how I started to add stuff to YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and I'll start watching followers and comments and engagements and saves, and all these different things happen to me over and over and over because I started first recording what I was saying. So take 5 minutes and record yourself saying it. Now, you don't have to share it. You don't have to upload it yet. This is just a practice part. I start uploading it after I did a bunch of videos, and then I just started doing it to get more and more comfortable. And that's what happened for me. Next, I want you to practice a 90-second version of your story. I want you to compress your story down to something that you can say within a minute and a half. And I want you to be able to tell that concisely over and over, where you can just spit it out, almost like an elevator pitch. But you can tell that story over and over, and it's easy for you to regurgitate. Now, it takes about 30 minutes to build that, but it's easy to practice once you get it down. Next, I want you to ship this out before you're ready. Okay. You don't have to post it, but it's going to help you post. It's going to help you when you post it. It's going to give you courage. Now you're going to care. Initially, it's going to be hard to listen. It's going to be hard to hit that button that shares that post. But every time you do it, you're going to get more and more courage. That's what I did. I took, for the last 9 months, I have shared something that I've done on camera every single day, just to build my courage and my chops and to get over that nervousness. It works. So when you have your 90-second story down, I want you to post it somewhere. All right. Don't worry about the results. Remember, if you only bless one person, if you only help one person with your story, you've made a difference. The next thing is, I want you to anchor this to a person that you're serving. Think about who has fears. Think about who has your story help overcome. Who is like you? Okay. I want you to shift the focus from yourself to somebody else, that one person that needs to hear your story, that one person that needs to hear your message, that one person who needs what you have to offer. Every time you serve, you're going to defeat self-doubt because it's no longer about you. Oftentimes, the fear comes because we're so focused on ourselves and the inner voices. When we transfer that energy to helping or serving somebody else, it lessens. Okay. So you're going to move from that self-doubt to helping somebody else. All right. All right, guys. Here's cold hard facts. All right. Like I said, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, I have digital products, I'm a trainer. This is the money that you can make just being able to do this. Now, I'm not here to push this on you. I'm not here to sell anything to you. Okay. I just need you to understand a couple ways I've been able to make income from being able to tell my story. I am not the best storyteller in the world, but nobody else has my stories. And your situation is the same. Keynote speaker, workshop trainer, conferences, $1,500, $25,000 a pop. Coaching, one-on-one group coaching, retreats, masterminds, $500 to $5,000 a month. Just being able to do this, just from your story. Imagine putting it in a book. Imagine putting it in a course. Imagine putting it in some sort of framework that people use over and over, a workbook, a blueprint. I've got these too. 27 to $997 a pop. This is possible for you because you're able to tell your signature story. I need you to be able to do better for yourself, to be able to make money with your story, to profit from the things that you've already went through. And this is how you do it, being able to tell that signature story. All right. The same story that heal you can pay you. I'm just saying, I need you to understand this is possible for you. I've experienced it. If I can do it, you can do it too. I need you to understand there's a couple other people who had some things to say about this. Maya Angelou, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. I've felt that. Owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult as spending our lives running from it. Face your stories. They're going to heal you as well. Your story is the greatest legacy that you will leave to your friends. It's the longest lasting legacy you will leave to your heirs. Okay? Steve Jobs, another person you know. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda. This is you. This is you. This is you. You have the strength to do all these things. So here's what I want you to do. Your story is waiting on you. It is. The world doesn't need a perfect story. It needs a real one. It needs your authenticity. It needs what you've been through. I need you to understand your story isn't just something that you've endured. It's something that you can use as a tool to teach, to speak, to talk, to write, to lead, to help, to strengthen somebody. Okay? This is what your story does. I hope I've given you everything you need to be able to get over that hump of not being able to tell your story. I need you to tell your story. I need to see posts that you shared your story, that you shared where you come from, what you've overcome, your mission, why these things are important to you. People need to hear this with all the craziness going on in the world right now. What people need to hear is stories of triumph, stories of your resilience, stories of your laughter, stories of like self-deprecation. Like I'll tell stories about things I screwed up too. So like all kinds of stories, humorous stories, sad stories, triumphant stories. People need to hear your stories. So if you need further help with this, here's a couple things that you can do. You can download my free signature ebook. This is I'm sorry, download the free signature story blueprint. Now, I'm going to leave the link here where you can go download that book, and it's going to give you even more tools on how to tell your stories for free. All right. You can also even find me on the Art of the Story newsletter. That newsletter is going to be filled with things that you can do more specifically to be able to tell your story, even challenge you about the stories that you're telling yourself. Okay. Go get these things, go download them, be able to tell your story at the drop of a dime. If you're writing a book, it's a great tool. If you're creating content, it's a great tool. If you're a leader, a business owner, this is a great tool for all these different things. Look, guys, I'm Thaddeus McNeil, and I'm going to always say that the goal is growth. Growth happens in the journey. Start your journey, tell your story, change somebody's life.